We're going to open up the floor and take your questions on today's San Francisco 49ers report. A lot of pertinent things to talk about in the lead up to this game against the Cleveland Browns. We begin with the $20 super chat from Sainsman. Thank you so much for donating to the show. Do you think they need to get Christian McCaffrey a little bit of help? Look, I had been calling even going into the Dallas Cowboys game that I wanted San Francisco to use Jordan Mason a little bit more. Elijah Mitchell was on the practice field on Thursday, so I imagine he could be active for this game against Cleveland on Sunday. But Elijah Mitchell continues to get hurt, and Jordan Mason continues to be durable. And when he gets snaps and when he gets carries, Jordan Mason continues to produce. Elijah Mitchell is a really talented player, but at some point, do the injuries become too much to bear where you go with another player who's just more available and can play a little bit more? And in fact, I love the contrasting styles of McCaffrey, lightning, and Jordan Mason, thunder, because that type of approach and that type of diversification to your running game, I think can help wear opponents down, and it's just a different look. You have McCaffrey who's finesse with a little bit of power, and then you have Jordan Mason to run your ass over. Maybe it's one of those things where you change up the running back rotation where McCaffrey's in the game a lot early. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He can line up in the slot. You run him. And then in the second half, once you get that lead, he can line up at slot wide receiver. Jordan Mason is your running back, or just put in Jordan Mason and take McCaffrey off the field to rest him. And then you just go physical, big boy, bully ball football with a guy like Jordan Mason who shows no fear in running your ass over. Matt Keller with the $5 super chat. Browns' run D is low. Will the Niners stick to the run game or a bit of both, passing and run? So we actually have some Cleveland Browns team statistics that we can go through, and we dissected some of these numbers on our preview as well. So we won't spend a bunch of time, but the Browns' defense is susceptible to giving up some explosive plays, but they tend to kind of keep everything in front of them, and they really prioritize their pass rush. Jim Schwartz runs a wide 9 front. That's exactly what the Niners do as well, when the 4 defensive linemen in the trenches are spread out a little bit, gives you pathways and avenues to rush the passer. This Browns defense is really, really good. And if the offense was doing better than just averaging 19 points per game, which is 23rd in the NFL, maybe the Browns wouldn't be sitting here at 2-2 going into week 6, because their defense, as Matthew Keller said, very, very solid. Number 2 in points per game at just 15. Number 1 in yards per game. They can shut you down. That's why I'm excited to see what Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy can do against a proven defensive mind in Jim Schwartz. Rick Nyers with the $20 super chat as well. Again, all of the donations that come into the show, we're so humbled. Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey, two-headed monster. And I kind of answered that moments ago. It is. And it's that ground and pound type of two-headed monster that I think is sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable to run McCaffrey as much as the Niners did in the first month of the season. Yes, he won NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and he won NFC Offensive Player of the Month for September. Like, he had an awesome opening month of the season. But you could see against the Dallas Cowboys, there were some questionable dirty hits on McCaffrey. People going at his neck. People going at his head. Kyle Shanahan even acknowledged this past week. I think teams are desperate to try to bring him down, keep him healthy, spell some of his carries, run Jordan Mason. You can run Elijah Mitchell a little bit, but I frankly think Mason is a better player right now because of the injuries for Eli. Matt Keller with another one. Will Randy Gregory be on the opposite side of Nick Bosa after seeing him on Instagram? He looks like a great addition to the defense. He's a really good addition to the defense. And he's a good addition when you combine the Niners not paying him anything beyond this year, when you combine the fact that the Denver Broncos are basically eating all of his salary for the rest of the year, his money guaranteed on the 5-year, $70 million deal that he signed with Denver 2 off seasons ago is not guaranteed after this year. So really San Francisco on the hook for about $800,000 plus. And everybody says Randy Gregory, character concern. He's not at all. People have been raving about this acquisition for the Niners. Has he got into some trouble, smoking some weed? Yeah. But the NFL then used to test for it and was more stringent on it than they are right now. So really, those suspensions might not have happened nowadays as compared to back in the day. Lastly, though, most importantly, his impact as a football player. Randy Gregory is 6'5", 240, 250 pounds. He has been He has twitch. He has athleticism. He's better right now than Drake Jackson and Cleveland Ferrell. So you just upgraded your other defensive end spot opposite of Nick Bosa, and you can never have enough edge rushers in the game of football. You can never get enough picks in with PrizePicks. That's why you got to download the app. The number one and largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. It's daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2+ players, you choose more or less on their projected stat lines, and we have a great deal for the faithful. You go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. You use the code CLNS. We can get you up to a $100 deposit match. For instance, you put in $100, you get $100 back, $200 a game with. Here are my prize picks going into Sunday's game against Cleveland. You can only pick 2 players on the same team. Deebo Samuel's been absent the last 2 weeks. I think he has more than 47.5 receiving yards because he could pick up that chunk with one big chunk after the catch. George Kittle finally broke out last week. I think that continues. Couple of seam balls, another touchdown, more than 40.5 receiving yards. And I like Amari Cooper as a wide receiver. I like less, though, 59.5 receiving yards because of the question marks at the quarterback spot for Cleveland. So it's daily fantasy made easy, largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. Choose more or less on their projected stat lines and get up to $100 with a deposit match. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Bulls Nation is next up. Trade for Austin Hooper to help George Kittle. You know what? Let me say this. Instead of trading for Austin Hooper, how about a trade for Zach Ertz? Zach Ertz is a really good pass catcher, another weapon on this team. It allows you to use George Kittle as a blocking tight end and receiving tight end and just use Ertz in the slot as a really good pass catcher who could be a possession guy. I'd rather go Zach Ertz over Austin Hooper. How about them Niners with another great profile picture here? CMC's help is sitting on the Atlanta Falcons roster as their RB3. Cordarelle Patterson, running back, wide receiver, returner. If Ray gets hurt, who's returning? Versatile depth. That's what Cordarelle Patterson brings you. So if Ray McCloud were to get hurt, Ronnie Bell would take his spot. He does have some return experience. Ray, though, one of the best returners in the NFL. Cordarelle Patterson, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me why, after Patterson elected and the Falcons elected to bring him back, why he's barely playing at all this year. Cordarelle Patterson is a threat to take the ball to the crib at any moment. And this year, he's only played in 2 games. He has 1 catch for 7 yards and is barely used as a returner. Only 2 returners this year as he's not playing at all. Is there something up medically? Maybe that's the issue. And maybe that's why a team like the Niners might be hitting pause. Do the Niners need to make another move? You had that one coming in, talking about a potential move for Cordarelle Patterson. What do you think? C for trade, C for content. David Delgado, how is Jason Verrett doing? So pretty funny story here. Jason Verrett, after working out with San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, signed with the Houston Texans practice squad. He is going to reunite with D'Amico Ryans. So that makes Jimmy Ward having a reunion with D'Amico, Kerry Hyder, and also Jason Verrett. There was another one in there too, who I think I'm forgetting right now. If I missed it, you let me know. But obviously, what'd you say? I said Jimmy Ward. Obviously, they took a lot of Niner folks because Bobby Slowick is their offensive coordinator, who's doing great things with C.J. Stroud right now. Matt Keller with another 5. Would you want to see another Ray 71-yard house call like the one against Washington last year? When people ask me if San Francisco can trade for like a Mecole Hardman, they say, well, the reasoning is you can use him as a gadget guy. Ray McCloud is a really good gadget guy who you already have on this roster who gives you high-level returns. So with Ray, he's gotten some offensive snaps this year. Sometimes he's been spelled by Ronnie Bell, and I don't hate that just for the development of Ronnie Bell. But an end around here and there for Ray McCloud, a reverse, a little bubble screen, get the ball out in space to one of your playmakers who's really quick and elusive. Don't hate it at all. Matt Keller, next up to be the next offensive coordinator. Words of wisdom. Chase, I like the idea that Dallas used against us where Micah Parsons lined up off the line of scrimmage, essentially getting a running start. Could the Niners copy it with Bosa? Your thoughts? So, I've gone back and watched the tape actually on this, and Steve Wilks has experimented with some similar things for Nick Bosa. And I believe he did it against Dallas. When you're watching some tape, sometimes things all get cluttered together. But Nick Bosa was used as a stand-up edge rusher coming off the edge to allow him to kind of serve as that Micah Parsons outside linebacker, Hassan Reddick outside linebacker, stand-up edge rusher to get that start off the edge to use that first step. So I think that Wilks is going to continue to do that with Nick Bosa, and it's good to see him in that position to switch it up from his hand being in the dirt. But I also think that what makes Nick Bosa so special, it's the get-off and the explosiveness and how quick he is coming off the edge, coming out of his traditional pass rush set. But always good to be versatile and change it up a little bit. Killa Ray, last question in this mailbag. How many sacks do you think that Nick Bosa and Randy Gregory will get? Bang, bang, Niner gang. In this game, considering that the Browns are a little bit banged up on the offensive line, and they might not have Deshaun Watson. If Watson cannot go, it's going to be P.J. Walker. He might be a little bit indecisive. P.J. Walker is not the quarterback that Deshaun Watson is. He could second-guess himself to a certain degree. And when you second-guess, and when you're indecisive, you hold on to the ball a little bit longer. What happens then? It leads to sacks. Just like Trey Lance, first preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Reed was there. He didn't pull the trigger. He got sacked, 5 times in that game because of that. Like, that's an example, not ripping Trey. It happened. It's on tape. Doesn't lie. But that's an example of how when you don't get rid of the ball quickly, you can get sacked. So I think Bosa has a sack on Sunday. And I think Randy Gregory has a sack. And here's the thing. It's so wild how numbers and statistics and analytics go sometimes. When it comes down to sacks, sometimes they literally come in bunches. Nick Bosa at some point soon is going to go off for 3. Maybe that's this game against the Cleveland Browns. Speaking of this game against the Brownies, such a bland team name and team logo, and their stadium is named Cleveland Browns Stadium. Ugh, it's sickening. Plus, it's Cleveland. SF for the Niners, CLE for the Cleveland Browns. Who you got? I like San Francisco.